Hey guys, it's Yusuf from NUS Clubhouse, and today I'll be talking about our app that my team decided to pursue, NUS Clubhouse. So before we begin, I first have to talk about the inspiration for why we decided to create the app. And quite simply, it's because of this maybe not so common phenomenon people 5 years ago might not have heard about, COVID-19. So with COVID-19, we actually shifted most of our classes to online. And because of that, my friend and I felt that we were pretty much lacking the social aspect of school, considering that we went through an academic year without having as much social interaction as much as we thought we would. So thus came up the idea of NUS Clubhouse. Now, the idea is simple. It's a voice chat app that can basically connect NUS students and faculty members together and chat, basically. So without further ado, let's jump into it. With NUS Clubhouse, we were trying to think of how or what exactly we're trying to solve with the current COVID situation. And quite frankly speaking, our emails have been bombarded with like Zoom links, and generally it's quite hard to find and organize all these sort of events. So one of which, as mentioned here, it's difficult to conduct and organize mass briefings and Q&As or outreach online. So one of the examples actually when we were about to enroll in the NUS itself. So this was basically before our first semester in school. We actually couldn't really find the resources for all these like faculty camps and talks. So because of that, we actually kind of missed out on some of them, and we felt that maybe the outreach could have been better. Maybe there could have been like a centralized place for all these meetings and stuff. So next, we were actually thinking about how this would actually benefit the graduating cohort or about to graduate cohort. And we thought this is the perfect platform to actually bring recruiters on board and interview NUS students rather quickly, because instead of going through their finding their Zoom emails and stuff like that, we can actually liaise with these organizations and connect them with our NUS students, and we're off to the races. Now, lastly, it's actually difficult to have live conversation about hot topics and current events. So this is more related to how we basically didn't really have much of a social circle as first years, and I find that that's rather unfortunate, because part of the NUS journey is actually the friends we make along the way, right? So because of this, we actually can't really have like all these discussions about how stressful modules are, for example, like some social issues that happen in school as well. So the existing solutions are actually mass emails and Zoom meetings. And as I mentioned before, these are actually quite hard to keep up with, especially when we get a bunch of emails about like lecture updates or like updates about other talks that are happening in school. And as for the interview part, it's the same thing. The students just have to go through, the organization have to send a mass amount of emails. Then they have to go through the rounds of like resume filtering, schedule Zoom interviews, and that's and reject. And lastly, the existing platforms that would help with discussions are actually like the NUS Whispers website, the NUS subreddit, or Telegram groups among hallmates or friends, which is rather exclusive, I would say. Like you have to have like a current social group to take part in all these like discussions, which it's kind of counterintuitive, because if you already have a social group, you tend to stick in along that social group instead of like expanding your circle. So this is how we're better, at least in our opinion. And this Clubhouse aims to be an all-in-one solution. So this means that instead of multiple Zoom links and stuff like that, we just access the website, and from there we can actually access like the necessary like voice chat rooms where discussions can happen. Next, we intend to streamline the hiring process with a quick interview sessions. So these rooms can sort of be like a speed dating room, but for internships and job applications instead. And lastly, it's basically a voice chat platform to exchange ideas and perspectives that may be limited by generally how the medium is, which is like typed or written. And by doing so, we can actually, it actually feels more like we're having a natural conversation, which I feel that the written medium can not quite replace. So these are the features that we intend to develop in our app. Firstly, it'll be NUS exclusive. So this is NUS exclusive because, well, it's NUS Clubhouse. And the other thing is we kind of want it to have a proper use case. So for example, when I'm talking about how stressful, or I want to talk about how stressful, like for example, my Orbital project is. So I can actually jump on board and maybe like create a CP2106 chat room, and then bring some friends over and just have a discussion and maybe even exchange ideas. So secondly, we want to allow scheduled rooms. So this is more stuff for like interviews and like talks or Q&As, or be it for like extracurriculars or even for academic purposes as well. So this way, people can sort of know when to expect a call to happen. And lastly, a calendar of scheduled rooms. So this kind of ties into point number 2, where we would know when these rooms were going live. So now I'll be demoing the app itself, just roughly how it's gonna function. All right, so as you can see here, I pulled up my Chrome tab, and firstly, I access the website, which is NUS Clubhouse Games. So from here, we actually intend with a very simple sort of layout, because it's basically a no-frills video chat app, and we kind of want it to be, we don't want to clutter the page so much of information that people don't necessarily need. So yeah, so this is our welcome page. We have the create account and login. The requirement for this is that it requires an NUS account. So let's have original account. Sorry, under the create account. It says failed to register, but because I actually created an account already. Is my NUS email, and we can log in. So as you can see, the web page is actually very bare, but like I said, this was how we intended it for it to be. So as you can see here, there's like a friends and following. So this is sort of a place where you can see whether your friends are online. Unfortunately, because this is a demo, we don't really have like much people online, but you can refer to how it's going to look like in the posters. Now, this is your feed. Your feed here will actually be populated with your rooms, basically. So maybe I can pull up the poster, for example. All right, so as you can see here, this is how the feed would kind of look like. So these are the titles. So for example, we actually have the demo of it being, this is a module. So CS2040, here's 1101R, linear algebra, and here's basically an NUS radio where basically people can hang out and chat with each other or even have like live performances. So next, here is the upcoming rooms, and here we actually pre-populated it with some stuff. And yeah, that's basically it. So what happens now is, let's say I want to create a room. It's quite simple. Let's create a new room, and let's say and based on that, they ask, they prompt you for your microphone, and now just waiting for people to come in. All right. So basically, the technical details. We actually built this using React.js for our front end, back end using mainly Elixir, and Phoenix is a library built on top of Elixir, and Post PostgreSQL for our database. And lastly, our voice server actually based on Media Soup, which is built on top of WebRTC, and the client we're using to connect our voice server to the front end is Node.js. So yeah, it was a lot of fun learning all this technology, and granted we were rather ambitious, but it's a learning process. And I'm glad that we managed to come up with a product. Thanks for your time.